I know that there's a vogue for victimhood today, and they seem to have decided to tap into it. And they are proving that that vogue is profitable because they're making massive amounts of money out of this.
I mean, I think a lot of people may be surprised to see the Panorama interview with Princess Diana as well, since William said that, you know, he never wanted to see this publicly again. Why do you think Harry decided to include this interview? I mean, he said, yes, she was deceived, but but she was speaking her truth. But do you think it was necessary to show that?
Why do I think they showed the interview with Diana? Could it be because everything about these three films that I saw so far are entirely focused on trying to say Meghan Markle equals Diana? I think it could be. Even the bits of these programs about Prince Harry were actually about Meghan Markle. And that's what that Panorama extract was about. Most people have agreed to stop showing clips from that interview because of the dishonesty of the producers and the presenter in how they managed to achieve that interview. But here we have Prince Harry, her son, choosing in the Netflix film to include some of the interview. I think that over and over and over again, the message of these films was that Meghan Markle is Princess Diana. In actual fact, if we're going to try and draw parallels to the late Princess of Wales, it would be the current Princess of Wales who maybe is in the same position, and that is Catherine. Now, I think that points to another element that I think is shining through. In my opinion, a lot of this is about jealousy. This is somebody who's named his forthcoming autobiography, Spare, because he's always felt like the spare to the heir, that horrid nickname that he's had. And now I think maybe he feels a bit like a spare to Meghan because she's the star of the Harry and Meghan show. It's interesting this time that they put his name first. I think that this is really what it's all about. It's about a jealousy that they were number 6 at one point in the line of succession, that he kept slipping down the line of succession, and yet his brother will one day be the king, and his brother's wife is the Princess of Wales. So I think that it may be a bit cruel of me, but I just don't think that many people see Meghan as Princess Diana at all. I don't think it's a good idea to try and paint her that way either, but that seems to be what the makers of this Netflix film are trying to do, and I think that's why they included that Martin Bashir interview from the BBC, which I again don't think was a wise inclusion, but it was only one of many parts where they tried to say that the two women have these startling similarities. I mean, there was even a section where Harry said, in this sort of strangely unself-aware Oedipal moment, that she reminds him very much of his mother. So they laid that on very thick, this idea that there was this comparison between the two of them.
Right. How do you think the royals feel when Harry may have said, you know, or he did say that the royal men feel a temptation to marry somebody who fits the mold, and that their engagement, interview, everything like that was orchestrated like a reality show?
Look, they said that, for example, their engagement interview that was broadcast after they announced their engagement was some sort of manipulated or scripted reality. That's quite weird to watch when what we're all actually glued to at the moment is literally 6 parts of their scripted so-called reality. And I think that it really just shows a dishonesty in how they're trying to portray themselves, because of course most TV is a little bit scripted or a little bit rehearsed, but the idea that when they were doing this interview they chatted through the questions first and mentioned that they'd like to show the ring, those are all actually things that were done between the palace and the media via their comms teams as ways to make them feel more comfortable and more relaxed. So they can't have it both ways. Either they felt that the press were too unbridled, too wild, asked them things that they didn't want and all of that, or they had a problem with the behind-the-scenes discussions and negotiations that go on between all kinds of people who are being interviewed and the people interviewing them. But I think to complain on both sides is a little bit unfair. They are public figures. She did marry Prince Harry. He is in the royal family. These were all things that were relatively predictable. And I think that maybe they are things that would make them feel a bit sad. Maybe they are things that they don't like about their lives, but that's just how life is. Lots of people have things they don't like about their life. I think that if they actually wanted to minimize the intrusions and the general attention that the press and the media and the world gives them, well, it will be really easy. I mean, they don't need to be followed by a film crew. They have left the royal family. They don't need to have everything they do filmed. But actually, over the last couple of years, it seems like they've hired their own photographers and film crews to follow them more or less everywhere, and not just to catch the official moments like happens with the royal family, the working royals here in the UK, but also to catch them blubbing on their chaise longue covered with an Hermes throw, or recording themselves from the very beginning, from the moment they left the UK. They were recording themselves on their phones. Now that's got to look suspicious to people. Why were they doing that? Who was Prince Harry addressing when he looked into his mobile phone and said, nobody knows the real truth, we know the real truth? Who was he talking to back then? Had they already had talks about making a documentary, about making this reality show? Who were they recording these for? There she was recording hers from Canada with, in this odd pose, talking to herself on her phone with her knee up and this towel over her hair just to look normal again, and crying into the camera. Really, there's something really performative about their victimhood that I think alienates them to so many people. I know that there's a vogue for victimhood today, and they seem to have decided to tap into it. And they are proving that vogue is profitable because they're making massive amounts of money out of this. But just one other part that stood out actually, while I'm on that line of thinking, there's one moment at which Harry said, talking about the run-up to their wedding, that there were things that started to appear in the press, and he said it was amazing what people would do for huge amounts of money. Now, he wasn't actually talking about him and Meghan making this series of 6 whingy films. He was talking about other people who have much less money than they do, selling the odd photo of them in the earlier parts of their lives to the media. But I think that it's very telling that he was condemning those people for that, when in actual fact, many people see what they're doing now as speaking for enormous amounts of money in a way that is extremely damaging and sad and upsetting to other people within both of their families. As people who talk about family a massive amount, and as people who talked about compassion at one point as one of their sort of brand values, they don't seem to be showing much compassion to her family or to his family. In fact, they're making a 6-part Netflix documentary that's being broadcast all about their squabbles and arguments in minute detail with both families. I don't think that's a normal way to behave.
For more news content and exclusive interviews, make sure to hit the sub, like, and bell button down below and visit usmagazine.com.